You guys, here we go. I know this is annoying, but I'm going to try and slow it down and give you everything you need for solving these three variable systems with three equations. Your goal, solve for each of these variables using elimination. Now, that sounds daunting. You look at this equation up here and you say, oh my gosh, there are three different equations and three different variables. I don't know where to start. So look for something easy, something you can eliminate easily. You look for either variables, you look for variables that are the same. They have the same value. Say it's 4y and another 4y. Well, you see it right here. You have a z and another z. Okay? So you could subtract one from another and this would be eliminated. I know this says 2z, but if I multiply one of these other equations by 2, then I can go ahead and eliminate that 2z from here. And like we said, if you multiply an equation by 2, you multiply every term by 2, then that equation stays the same, stays equivalent. You haven't really changed it, you've just raised each value by that factor that you've multiplied by. So that's okay. So you're looking for things that are the same or opposites. Opposites being oppos. Opposites being if you had a negative 2. You know, a negative 2 and a positive 2, you could eliminate. The 3, the 2, and the 5x, it's a little bit too much work. Same thing with 1y, negative 1y, 3y, and 4y. A little bit too much work. So let's stay away from those. So we're going to eliminate z's in this system, and that's why I wrote that here. My suggestion is get out a piece of paper and write all this down. I know it's a lot of writing, and you can pause the video and catch up, but write all this down so that you get used to understanding there's a goal, and you have a step 1. Look for the variable that you want to eliminate, and in this particular case, this seems easiest. And you've got, label your equations 1, 2, and 3 if you want to do it that way. All right? Then add or subtract two of the equations from each other. In this case, we're going to subtract one. We're actually going to subtract number 2 from number 1, right? And let me just go ahead and label them. I know you know what these equations are because you can see them. But this is equation 1, and this is equation 2. Right? So we're going to subtract equation 2 from equation 1, and we'll come up with a value. All right, I'm going to use this color again because I don't want to change it. And then your final for this first couple of steps is to finish with two variable equations. That's what you want to end up with. That's what we're doing when we eliminate a variable. And I'll get to this in a minute. We'll do the factoring up and we'll get there. So 3 minus 2, 3x minus 2x gives me 1x. And then negative y minus 3y is negative 4y, or minus 4y. Z minus z plus z minus plus z, the z's go away. And that's it. They cancel each other out when you subtract one from another. 1 minus 1 is just 0. All right, and last but not least, negative 1 minus 4 equals negative 5. Okay? Now, we have one of our equations that has two variables. And now we're going to look for the next one. But if you look up here, equation 1 has just one z, and equation 3 has two z's, right? But how do I get from 1z to 2z? I multiply by 2. So if I multiply everything in this equation by 2, I haven't changed it. The property of equality states you can multiply everything in the equation, both sides, by 2, and everything will stay the same. So here we go. I'm going to go back to that color. I'm going to multiply by 2. 3x times 2 is 6x. And then minus y, negative y. Negative 1y times 2 is negative 2y, or minus 2y. That statement, those things are exactly the same. Positive z times 2 gives me 2z equals negative 1 times 2 is negative 2. Now I can subtract, right? 6x minus 5x gives me an x. Great. Minus 2, or negative 2y minus 4y is negative 6y. And then 2z minus 2z again cancels it out. Put our equal sign in. We have negative 2 minus 5 gives me negative 7. Now I have my second equation. I've reached my goal for this section. All right, so I'm going to get rid of this and open up. My next step is to eliminate one of the two remaining variables. And then, I hope I didn't ruin the space. Solve for that variable. Alright, I'm going to put those back there. So these are the two equations that we had, right? We had, this was 1 minus 2. This was 2 times 1 minus 3. Okay, and this is what we ended up with. And now I have an x and an x, and I can just subtract, right? So x minus x equals nothing. It goes away. Let me go back to that color. Negative 4y minus negative 6y. Minus a negative is like plus a positive. So now I end up with 2y equals negative 5 minus a negative 7. So negative 5 minus a negative plus a positive 7. So negative 5 plus 7 is 2. Well, now we can solve for y, solve for that variable. How do we do it? We undo this multiplication with division. So we divide both sides, because that's what the property of equality states. 2 divided by 2 here just leaves me with y. I'll write it down here. Hopefully I'll have room. Equals 2 divided by 2 is 1. So y equals 1. This is our first key. This is the first key to open the second lock, or to open one of our locks. Right? This is our first key. I'm going to take what I've found. I'm going to plug it into one of these equations and solve. Let's go ahead and use this up here. Let's put it in here. Right? Because I only have two variables, and I have an answer for one of those variables. If I put it up in here, plug it in for y here, I can solve for x. So let's go ahead and rewrite that. Let's go ahead and write that. I guess I'll write it underneath because it should be easy to do. X minus 4 times 1 equals negative 5. Right? So what do? I undo that subtraction because I know that 4 times 1 is 4. Let's use a different color. So add 4. You didn't really have to have me do that, did you? Okay. So, minus 4 plus 4, that goes away. And then negative 5 plus 4 is negative 1. Oh my God. It's a horrible 1. Who did that? Negative 1. Alright, so x equals negative 1. There is our second key. So key 1 gets me to the next variable, which is the second key, which will lead us to be able to find our third variable. Once I have an x and a y, I can find out what z is just by plugging it into one of these upper equations. What the heck? Let's use number 1 and plug in what we know. So, I'll go back to this color. 3 times negative 1, because that's what we found for x, minus, right, because it says minus y, and I'll use that color for y, minus 1 plus z plus, plus z equals negative 1. Now I can do this math. Anybody can do this math. 3 times negative 1 is negative 3. Minus 1 plus z equals negative 1. Alright, negative 3 minus 1 is negative 4. Plus z equals negative 1. What's the opposite of negative 4 so we can get rid of it? It's positive 4. That goes away. Positive 4 or plus 4 over here. Put them together, we get positive 3. So our final variable, that z, is equal to 3. Alright, and now we've got there. Took a long time to get there, but that's it. Alright, rewind this, go back, check it. You're only getting one of these. If you need help, maybe we'll work together to say eliminate this variable first, because usually it ends up being so much easier if you eliminate the right variable first. Thanks for your time.